All right, it is high noon on Tuesday, Pacific Standard Times. That means it is the Architects and Heroes live stream show. I am here with a dear friend, someone I've known for a long time, since way back in the day, back in the Bay Area. We've got Evaju.
What's up, everybody?
What's happening, man?
Man, you know, just pandemic living.
So, okay, man. First of all, it's great to see you. And I just, from the jump, I want to say, you know, from our core group of people back in San Francisco back in the day, you know, to see, you know, one of our own, and I hung out with Raph. Raph and I hung out this past weekend out in Long Beach, and Raph Gold Code, who does we were talking about it, and it was just like to see somebody from our core group of camp just get stratospherically, you know, out there and do your thing and not really compromise on the type of stuff that you're doing now, the level of quality of stuff that you put out, and just to this day remain you, to remain Marc, to be the same dude that you've been since the jump is really inspiring and really cool. So props to you, man.
Oh, man. I appreciate cool that, man. Thank you. Much love for that. Yeah. It's you know, it's definitely a kind of high wire balancing act, of course, to some degree, but I would be lying a little bit if I didn't say I kind of, you know, make sure to stay calculated in certain things. I mean, at some point I played the 5-figure gigs and did some shit and just realized it's not me. You know what I mean? Backstage, hanging out with the types of, and like, yeah, that's, you know, I still take the metro to work. I still, you know, I'm everyday people, man. I mean, the way my family raised me was like that. I was lucky enough to grow up, you know, kind of lower class to middle class family. I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I learned a lot early as far as humility, as far as influences and everything, just putting all that into play. You know, so I have a lot of people to thank along the way for this, of course. But yeah, like, and, you know, the one thing is my dad too he was a huge influence, and he was always very much kind of like the Barry White attitude towards being an artist. You know, artists are babies and shit. You don't want to be like one of these diva ass, or, you know, this kind of thing. So I think that always kind of stuck in my mind too. It's like at the end of the day, you know, a successful artist is normally a byproduct of a bunch of things, primarily timing, luck, you know, hard work, of course, like in any successful endeavor. But
you can't knock the hustle, man. You've been grinding since day one, dude.
I would say,
like, I've had eyes on you. Like, you would play everywhere, you would show up everywhere, and you always had a mix in your hand. You always were like, "Hey, what's going on?" You would always you did it in the most low profile way too, where you're just like, slide in. It's like, I'm just going to give you quality goods. What you do with them is really going to be up to you.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it, man, is to kind of keep the interpretation open to the listener, to the audience, which is what I've always loved in, like, you know, certain, you know, musicians and filmmakers and artists too, is it's the kinds of, you know, it's the work that makes the statement. And then then there's the person who's, you know, just gets along with most people. I mean, I've always preferred that method yet. But I remember 26 mix, dude, showing up with like mixes being like,
I was peeling through, man. I was peeling through some old burned CDs, you know, and CDRs, and I one of these days I think I could just do a whole segment. I'm like, here's what Homeboy sounded like 15 years ago when I, you know, on demo status, man.
Yeah, I just came across a couple of those mixes. I was cleaning out the old closet in the garage the other day, doing some fall cleaning, and I came across a couple of mixed CDs and a couple of DAT tapes and shit that I was like, man, I gotta crank these up. I need to get a CD player and a DAT player to check them out now.
Oh, no shit, right? Yeah.
I mean, these are all from that period, like from like the late 90s to the early Y2K, and I'm like, man, I would love to just hear the. I mean, I remember a little bit. And if you look on the inside of one of the CDs, there's a playlist, so I know exactly. I'm like, oh shit, some schematic stuff and this and that, you know. But yeah, I would just love to. I think I need to like upload those and make them.
You know, I'll share some links with you of some stuff. I mean, it goes pretty fucking deep though. I'll tell you why, because one of the conversations. I don't know if you know Michael Walsh or not, but he does the Cosmic Spot radio show.
Yeah,
so Michael, Raph, and I were,
and that's in Long Beach as well, right? Or is it?
Yeah, well, they're both OC, and I'm on the west side, so like we had to find neutral territory.
Yeah, so
for our treaties, you know.
Cool.
But so we were talking about this, and I'm like, yeah, back when I went to SMU, I was the RPM director at KPNI, and you know, I had so-and-so. I mean, I had like Convection on. He's a Dallas dude. I had Convection on. Right. I had DJ Pon on. Now DJ Pon is Dan Curzy. Dan Curzy went on to be the founder of MailChimp, and he's like, you know, like he's on some like Elon Musk like teleport like brain shit. You know, he's on some other shit, you know. But like, it's just. But the funny part was, and we were exchanging notes about college radio. I said, yeah, you know, I mean, Lynn from Green Galactic used to send records to me when I was in Dallas, and he's like, oh, same here. And it was just that moment. And then Lynn is now married to John Tejada, and you know, it's just all the and she's in LA, and like you start to kind of look at the at the web of all the stuff of things that you do over the years, and it's like, you know, it's pretty astonishing to see people kind of continue to be on really good quality stuff and kind of making a go of it. And you know, and you, I mean, I'll say this also, when you were talking about 5-figure gigs and all this stuff and the kind of the peeps that are kind of in that orbit, you know, you got, if you looked at it at a line chart, you see this, and then you see a precipitous drop off, you know, and there's lots of reasons for that, man. But in terms of longevity, just straight up, dude, like you've been at it, like your first record dropped in 2003, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the first Dave Ajou solo record was 2003.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
I put out some stuff prior to that as Vehicle with the Tourist. He wasn't known as that then. Resource Records, the techno label from San Jose, and Solid Grooves.
Oh shit, man.
Which that actually just came full circle with a release that Mickey the Tourist did, which was amazing. So literally like 20 years, well, 19 years later, who's counting?
And that's what I'm saying. It's a marathon. It is a marathon for you.
Yeah,
And I'll say, like, you hear some people's early work on, and I gotta say, like, your early stuff is dope, dude. Really, really good stuff. But I always feel like a lot of artists will get in the game. They'll go real hard for like 3 or 4 years. Their best stuff is like at that peak, and then it might maintain, but at some point it drops off. I feel like the quality of your stuff, and I can count on one hand the number of artists over, you know, not even electronic, right? Of artists in general whose work just gets progressively better, more complex, more rich, deeper and more interesting places to go. And I definitely count you in that category of artists, man, for sure.
Amazing. Thank you so much, dude. Yeah.
So tell me, you know, for those that might know either your more recent stuff or kind of like are new to the Ajou, tell me new to the Ajou. Tell me a little bit about like your background, how you got started, and how you are in this game today, right now, or where you are today.
Sure, man. Yeah. Well, first, thanks for that, dude. That means a lot to me. In terms of just being an artist and being a producer, like my probably #1 rule to myself is just to try to constantly challenge myself, try to constantly evolve, try not to put out the same track twice, you know, and try not to rest on laurels. You know, if one track blows up, that's great. People caught on to that. Don't repeat it. Don't, you know, the idea of cookie cutting has just never been appealing to me. And that's not like a, you know, supposed to be some like high statement. It's just, you know, in terms of the process of creating music, I enjoy discovery, man. I'll forever have this childlike, you know, fascination with, oh shit, what was that? Or what, you know, just this kind of, and I think that, you know, hopefully comes across. I mean, at least, you know, to avid listeners like yourself, you get it. You know, there are people over the periods, you know, over the eras or whatever, that were, oh, this was the era that I liked. And of course, and that's how it is. I mean, there's, you know, there's Stereo Lab albums I prefer over other ones, or there's, you know, and this kind of thing. But it's like, you, as a body of work, if you can follow each one and recognize the artist as being an expressive force and trying to just constantly evolve, and if you can follow with them, man, that's more, you know, more power to the listener and the audience as well. For me, you know, I grew up, I mean, my main point of musical assimilation or influence is definitely my father. He was a pretty avid jazz head and player in the Bay Area scene. He used to run a jazz speakeasy in the East Bay in Oakland with like Chick Freeman, Joe Henderson. This is actually where Pharoah Sanders got his start when he first came from Arkansas. Wow. He was Pharoah Sanders. This is before Sun Ra told him to go as Pharoah. So Pharoah Sanders. My dad has some crazy stories and tapes of them jamming together. I actually used Pharoah with an L sample on my Heirlooms album, which was a tribute to my dad. that I had off of tape that that nobody else has had. He used to play at the Black Hawk a lot, not on the famous Miles Davis night, but which was later 222 Hyde. So it's all kind of full circle Bay Area. So that influence was definitely the first and foremost one. I literally remember being a kid hearing like Bitches Brew, being like, what the fuck is this? Like, I literally remember that moment. And then of course all the family barbecues where he and the band would be playing in the back and doing Roy Ayers and War covers and all this shit, and just being like, okay, this is music.
Yeah.
And so then when I hear Madonna and Hall & Oates on the radio and stuff, I'd be, oh, this is cool. It's not bad, but it's
not
cool.
bad. Yeah. I mean, that's first of all, that's heavy. That's whether or not you're a producer today, like just that history and that background and that lineage of what you've done is heavy. And I have to say, like Heirlooms, like hit, man. It hit when it happened, because when I first heard that, my dad had passed away the year before when came out, and I remember this vividly because I was in Montreal and you were in Montreal to play Mutech, I saw you at the bar and we were just steady doing shots, and you had slid the CD in, and we didn't really kind of chop it up too much about it, but I started reading the liner notes, and I was like, and I sat with that thing, and I was like, oh fuck, man, that this is like that to be able to have that kind of passing of the baton and sort of honoring your father in that way, and like speaking to the history of what you went through, and sort of even just processing your own grief through that record. It was heavy. I mean, it's still in rotation for me now, because it's the same thing. Like on my dad's anniversary, I'll pop it in and I'll go for
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it's a thing, and like to be able to kind of emote in that way within the framework of like, electronic music, dance music, house, techno, whatever you want to call it, right? Because we could go have a whole episode just about what shit's called. I don't want to,
the subgenre flex.
But it's always been amazing to me that you're able to kind of infuse and emote in that context. It's just a lot of soul in your stuff, man. Yeah, for sure.
Again, I remember that, dude. The construction of that album, particularly, like literally almost killed me. Only because it was so cathartic at first, and I was really getting into it. But when my dad first passed away, admittedly, I didn't. I don't do regret. I don't really believe in it too much. Definitely waste of time, forward ever, that kind of thing. But were I to do things over again, right when he had passed, knowing then what I know now, of course, we don't say 20/20 vision anymore, because this year is not really. It's no longer a reference point.
You can do better in hindsight.
Hindsight. Period. Yes, but I would have taken time off. So I was actually on the tour for my album, my first album, the debut on Open Wide. I was on the first world tour for that. I was just like a third of the way in, I think, a few shows in, and I got the call from my mom, and I was like, oh fuck. So I immediately canceled the rest of the tour, flew home, and I did go move in with my mom for a bit and take care of her. But I was taking care of her. I just kept working. I didn't really process the loss fully. Accept the pain, deal with the mourning, and, a year and a half later, I realized that all the stuff I'd made in between was kind of autopilot-y, wasn't really, I was in a kind of zombified mode, just because of that. And so I started, and I couldn't think about what the hell, everyone's like, second album, was it almost 4.5 years later, I think.
Right.
And I couldn't really, and then it hit me that the last conversation he and I had before I left on that tour, like literally a few weeks before I left, he was like, because I'd always been bugging him about playing on one of my albums. I started out doing hip hop, and we would be sampling. He's all, really, Freddie Hubbard? Like we'd play Tribe Called Quest records, and he would call the samples out. He'd be like, they use Blue Robinson. Oh, they're just using it. So at first he's like, you guys are stealing everything. And then he was like, then he heard like Midnight Marauders, and he heard all the layers and shit. He's like, really, Wes Montgomery and Lou Donaldson jamming together over some like, Bernard Purdy drums, or he would be like, he's like, that's actually pretty. He's like, shit, that's hard to do. I was like, so there was these few moments when he'd give the little dap, which was which was a big thing for us, not only as kids, but because he was such a musical, giant in some ways to us as well. But he eventually said, hey, when you get back from this tour, let's work on something together. And I came back halfway, and he was already gone. So it hit me, and I was like, I got to do this Nat King Cole, Natalie Cole posthumous thing. That's the only way I can do this,
Yeah.
And what was trippy about it was like, at first I was like, I have tapes after tapes. I mean, we've got piles of tapes of his recordings, like all these different jams they did. And at first I was like, it should just be more like that, like more like a jazz thing. And then I'll put some beats under it. And then the more I thought about it and how he was, and he was definitely a maverick and, you know, kind of a prankster and a shit talker and all this too, which is where I get all the good stuff from, I think. And he would have just been like, dude, make it you. Use my shit all you want, but make it you. Dude. Like, just I'm here for the ride. This is your album, you know? So with that kind of mindset, I was like, you know what? All right, cool. So I'll just use his stuff as source material, you know, flip the jazz kick drums to sound like 909s and flip this, you know, these to sound like 808 cymbals and claps and shit, you know, and to kind of like, you know, I felt like that was the way to go, which was a hell of a process, of course, like, but it was amazing and cathartic. But by the end of it, as soon as it was time to release, and actually our homie Sean Hatfield, Twerk, can attest to this, being the mastering engineer who, oh man, Sean, I'm sorry, but we kind of dragged him through the mud, because as we were finished, and he did a legendary job. I mean, Sean's got golden ears and crazy good gear and great talent sonically, and he had these amazing masters finished. And as soon as the masters were in my hands, I was like, I just lost it, dude. I was like, because releasing that was accepting his death finally. Yeah. And I went, dude, I mean, the label, some of my best friends can all attest. My girlfriend at the time, God bless her heart. Like, I was like, I'm like literally ended up like in the hospital on benzos, going to therapy, like really just blah. And then, you know, after 6 months or so of really checking my head and rebalancing my life, you know, learned about exercise and cutting back on, you know, certain chemicals and excess drinking and shit, you know, the kind of shit that everybody learns one way or the other. This was like a trial by fire. And my 6 months later, I, you know, got the clear head again, and then just listened to the Sean's masters, and I was like, this shit's perfect. I was totally tripping. I apologize. Let's release it. And that was it. And then from that point on, you know, I think I've sort of found a way to level out using that similar mindset as far as just letting go. The other thing too is a lot of artists that tend towards the combo of ADD and OCD, like myself, like a lot of the times making something and obsessing on it and just having it be such an intense part of your life, like a relationship for several months at a time, when it comes time to release that to the public, there's a certain level of, I don't know, man, like anxiety or something that just comes with it, because it's no longer yours. It's no, it was just you guys. It was the two of you, you know, in this intimate tango, in this deep relationship. And then you're like, okay, everybody else have it. And I think what I've realized is part of that album, Heirloom, since it was about my father and based on his sonics primarily, that it was like, not only am I accepting his death, but I'm also taking this project that I finally made with him and giving it to everybody else. And that combination was just huge. And you know,
very deep.
Yeah. And the thing is, any of us, especially at the age that I released that at, I mean, you said a year prior, your father passed. I mean, I got fortunate with a few reviews. You know, Pitchfork gave it a great review because that journalist's father had just passed. Dude, one of the greatest moments, I would say, one of the biggest accolades I've ever had in my life actually was based off that album. And it was a letter I had received, an email I had received. Maybe it was like was that still MySpace? I don't remember. It was, I got a message. I think I have it on all hard drives. Yeah, MySpace here, maybe. But so I basically got a message from this Italian composer, right? I don't remember his name off my head. I got to dig this thing up. But he was basically wrote me saying, "Dear Dave Ajou, I just wanted to thank you so much for this incredible album, Heirlooms. I'm an Italian composer. I hate electronic music." He's like, I don't like drum machines. I hate all of this shit. Like, you know, not those exact words, but he was basically, to be upfront, electronic music is not my shit. And so he's like, but I want to let you know that my father, who was this better known Italian composer, he died 11 years ago. And I have not been able to write a single thing since. And I just listened to this album, and I'm halfway through my next piece already. And I was just awesome. I was like, I'm done. Like, you know what I mean? Like, fuck a boiler room performance for a relationship. I mean, or even a Grammy. I mean, Grammy would be dope. Don't get me wrong. But something like that. I mean, that's like,
that's me, deep, man. That is really deep.
You know, that's what I feel like is the function of art, is to inspire. You know, and like to inspire another person to that degree, especially someone from a classical background who doesn't even like the kind of music you're doing. I mean, and my dad would trip too, because he was a big Third Stream cat, where he was like, he was a jazz cat, but he was well aware of the classical roots, like, you know, like somewhere, like Train and Miles were definitely about that. You know, Modern Jazz Quartet, these guys were like learned classical music after they started jamming, whatever. And he would have loved that story. I mean, that was pretty epic. I remember that touched me to tears for sure. When I first heard that, read that, I was just like, and I was like, that's success. That's success. No bank account shit, no, you know, props from and who's on the lineup and then like that. To me, that was like this album just succeeded right there, boom. And that was like a week after it was released. So everything else that came after that was just like bonus frosting on top.
Yeah. It was just icing on the cake. Yeah. You know, it's funny because I think when you have a record it's that heavy and it's that deep, that I can't even wrap my head around sort of the details of kind of what you went through emotionally to kind of get to the other side of that. But I think as a listener, as someone who had that in pocket, and you know, I've known you for a long time, man. And like, it's like when I went through and read, because I like to go in and read the liner notes before I throw on the headphones. I just listened with different ears. You know what I mean? Like right. it was a difference between like, you know, throwing a record on and cruise around the house doing shit versus like, I'm going to sit with this and I really want to hear the sonic subtleties of what's going on here because I know there's a lot more to it. Right. And I think, you know, there's a really interesting through line through a lot of your records, right? So whether it's like, I'm only going to use samples that are like, come from my mouth. If I'm going to do this thing, it's dedicated to my father. And here's the process I went through. There seems to be a through line of whether it's conscious or planned or not, that there's a certain amount of like conceptual forethought when you go into this, like not just like this is a soundtrack for a film that hasn't been made, you know, but like really like tactical, like I'm going to take this, I'm going to create this framework and I'm going to give myself these boundaries and I'm going to create a piece of art that is very specifically this. Right. Can you talk a little bit about how, like when you sit down to write a new piece of music, like what is the process like for you?
Sure. I mean, that basically, I can remember one of the turning points, actually. I was still producing hip hop at the time. It was, you know, still ASR 10 MPC. And I remember at one point, this is after my dad had already tried to rip us a new one for sampling jazz records like everybody else. See, I would be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to grab all this CTI shit. And he's like, really? You can do the same shit as everyone else? You know, this, like, he was that kind of a dad. It was pretty amazing. And I remember thinking like, well, yo, instead of like, sampling this drum, let's just like drop our car keys on the floor and use that for the snare, or like, you know. And I just I kind of started geeking out into this idea of just sound and like, you know, noises and shit. And I had this chair at the time. Actually, this one's pretty quiet. I had a studio chair at the time that had this crazy squeak. Like it was like, and like I was like, fuck it. So like I did this track and I was producing for a bunch of other like San Jose underground MCs at the time. And I would show up on Friday nights with beats, and then we'd all kind of freestyle rap over whatever. And I remember this like squeaky chair bass line thing, and it was like, and like I turned it into a bass line, had the car keys as the snare and all this shit, and everybody freaked. Like they had no idea. They were like, what the fuck? But like the raps were even crazier. They rhymed crazier because the beat was crazier, and I was just like, all right, I like this, like this kind of thing. And then so the next beat after that, I would be like, okay, but I got to make it more specific. So just to get it more like narrowed in, because they would be like, okay, chair squeak, car keys, that's cute. It's a bunch of different shit. But then you could do like, all right, well, let's just do it based just on the Technique turntable. So like the latch sound, the sound of pressing the stop button, you know, the platter rotating or tapping on top of the plastic lid.
Yeah.
Get the bass, the 808 bass. I mean, if you guys, any of you producers out there have never tried that, this shit is incredible. Just put the needle on a record, lift the plastic dust cover, and tap it. And you'll get the craziest 808 boom you've ever heard, which has this other alien kind of warble to it that you could never get off a drum machine. So I just got really deep into this kind of like fascination with sound. And then I took a class at SF State in minimalism. And part of it turned into like this study of like Dada and Fluxus and like John Cage and all this shit, which was totally new for me. I mean, again, like San Jose hip hop kid that was, you know, whatever. I mean, I had taken my fair share of tabs and whatnot at that point, so I was definitely open-minded to things. All right, but
sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. We've taken a call. We got a caller on the line.
I'm gonna turn that into a hotline at some point.
That's what it looks like.
I'm for sure gonna turn that into a hotline.
Dude, and we got our first caller here. And we're taking our first call. You're live.
First time caller, long time listener. This is the second time that shit's happened too. I gotta remember to unplug the phone next time I'm
Dude, I mean, it looks like it's there. It's like the red phone, like problem.
I mean, it's just better than the, you know, if you flip the camera around, it's like Halloween decorations. I only have a couple of different motifs in my living room.
I love the little dial-a-phones though. I was just talking about those the other day. I'm like, shit, I might have to get one.
So I'm sorry. So you were taking this class?
Yeah, there was a class
minimalism.
Yeah, with Dan Suzuki at SF State, and it was a minimalism class, and about halfway, and it was about all kinds of minimalism because I was like technically a lit major, but it was started with writing, then it went into sculpture, and by the end it was music and sound, and we went into like, you know, John Cage and Steve Reich and like Lamont Young and this kind of stuff and the Fluxus stuff and all that. And I started like researching some of the stuff they were doing, and I was like, holy shit, these guys are like kind of almost overthinking in a good way, like the way they're setting up these parameters for themselves as artists. They'd be like, all right, this is the piece, you know, and like some of it's obvious, you know, prankster shit, like John Cage is like, you're locked in the building and you can't get out, that's the piece. Or his famous silent piece, you know, whatever, 411 or whatever it is, it's 11 seconds of silence on the record, that's the piece. And I was like, and at the time I was really in that kind of mode of just like challenging shit and being as weird as possible, I guess.
Yeah.
And I just started thinking about, like that's, I don't know, that my brain is just kind of hardwired to that. I've always been into like, you know, puns and games and wordplay shit. When I was a kid, I was doing Games Magazine all the time and shit, like all the different, like, you know, and I always liked the idea of there being Easter eggs and little hidden things and shit, you know, whether it's Hitchcock and his MacGuffin and him showing up in the corner of the screen, or like, you know, just different shit where they're like, oh man, that's part of this. And then later on, somebody can connect the dots should they choose to.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing. And so like, you know, with Open Wide, just staying to the album format. I mean, I did some 12 inches before that also had kind of hardwired or overarching concepts. But Open Wide was like, I mean, I grew up listening to like Biz Markie, you know, and like Dougie Fresh and shit. And like when the beatbox was like, when I first heard like just Dougie Fresh and all that shit, I was like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is fucking incredible. You don't even need anything.
Yeah, definitely.
So that whole culture really fascinated me. And so at one point I was like, oh, someday I want to do a whole album of just the mouth shit. And like, maybe it won't be rap. Maybe it'll be something else. You know, I said this when I had a fake radio station as a kid, like when we were in fourth grade with my buddy, hey, what's up, sir? You know, trying to beatbox on some cassettes. And then when the time came around, I was like, you know what? Okay, it's time to do it. I didn't mean to do it on the first album, but it was a fun as hell process to just like emulate all these different instruments as much as possible with that.
You know, it's you know, the reason I find that super interesting is that most of the people and most of the artists and the people that I followed, you know, all this time since we first met are artists that do have some kind of through line of kind of there's a concept behind their work, or there's some sort of element in their work, even if it's not direct, even if it's not something like, you know, I'm only going to do X, Y, or Z. I was listening to the Resident Advisor podcast where they just interviewed John Frusciante, and I'll be honest with you, like I heard snippets of some of his earlier stuff, but I'd never heard him talk about anything about his music, and he is super deep, dude.
Yeah.
He is super deep on, like, you know, he just name checks like, you know, certain labels and processes, and like how he records music. And I listened to Maya, or the few first tracks that are available on Maya. First of all, it's dope.
That was incredible, man. I mean, also shouts to Oliver Bristow, this, you know, Avenue 66 Records that just released his project. I mean, that dude's on a streak. That label is just incredible. The SW one too, Joey Anderson's. That's like everyone's best work. Oliver just all those years of working at Amoeba. I think he clocked almost 20 years being the electronic buyer at Amoeba. Mm-hmm. You know, he runs this label, and it always just sounds incredible and looks incredible. So big props Oliver for that. But yeah, I didn't realize that's who that was, to be honest. honest with you. I mean, I didn't put two and two together.
I mean, yeah, it's
until I got sent the promo for that, and I was like, oh shit, that's John Frusciante. I went through a wormhole like you did. So
you don't know, right? You don't know, but there was this conversation that he was having about process, and he referred back to like old Dance Mania records, how everything was very, very pared down, and he's like, I've got all this gear, but what I like to do is I'm going to make one song with this one piece of gear, or I'm going to make this track with this piece of gear, or whatever. And I guess that's what, the through line here is that when you're talking about conceptual work, or doing stuff like Matmos did with their projects over the years, or I mean, I gotta say, there is this really interesting sort of culmination of artists. When I moved to the Bay Area circa 98, 99, I went out there mostly for like what I consider to be first wave San Francisco rave artists. Like, there was like the Hard Kiss Brothers, and there was Yano and Wicked, and exactly, like Freaky Chakra, Single Cell Orchestra, people I still consider to be like close friends of mine. But what I when I got out and started doing my thing there, what was popping was like the Tiger Beat 6 Camp and Kid 606, and they were doing stuff with Matmos, and like Bjork would show up to shit. And I'm like, there's something. and my buddy Evan Rose at the time, I told him I was kind of bugging out because we went to go see Blectum from Blectum play at some weird little spot in the Mission that was just like an art gallery. And Bjork was sitting behind us with the guys from Matmos, and he turns to me, he goes, yo, man, when Bjork shows up on the scene, shit's getting ready to pop off. That's what she did with Goldie, and like, back when it was just the funniest thing. But
and that's probably right before Matmos produced that album for her, right? The Vesper.
It was. And what's so funny though, and where I see this, all of this kind of dovetailing in, it's like you're coming from a hip hop background. Twerk was coming from a more of a hip hop background, graffiti artist, but there's this other layer to that whole time where a lot of the Bay Area, like Kit Clayton, Kid 606, Blectum, Matmos, just this laundry list of people, Sutek, now our road, like, it's like they were all Safety Scissors. Yeah. Matthew, Gold Chains, Beta Lounge was still like, there was this
Amnesia, the red lit room. I was just thinking about this the other day. I think I was talking about it with somebody, man. These legendary Halloween parties out in Oakland at Miguel's old house. Did you ever get to one of those?
I might have.
Right off the 5. I mean, it was like that. I was thinking about like, man, if there was iPhone footage back then, I think a lot of us would
a lot of us might be in jail.
Or in hiding for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I'm really glad that shit did not pop until 2007, because there'd be murky waters at best. But then also, like, Brian and Nick started to do the synth parties, and they were bringing more sort of like the early proto, like, I don't want to say electro clash, but
right,
Raph and I were talking about this. I'm like, yeah, it was like, the asymmetrical techno crew, like that whole.
I remember that shit.
Yeah,
I think somebody was calling it asymmetrical haircut techno. I think it was either Raph or one of our other partners, or, the turtleneck electro. Or I forgot. There's all these different phrases that were like, you're like, that's fucked up, but it's spot on.
It was but doesn't think it was almost like all these different scenes were kind of like, well, we're all kind of doing this together, because the Bay Area was definitely, Blast House was kind of full throttle, like things were just, and it was this overlap of like hardcore rave scene, sort of late 90s stuff, and then this whole new wave of like laptop techno.
Exactly.
When Kid 606 opened for the Melvins, and I'm like, whoa, that's
right. That's right. He did
it with the laptop, and I'm like, wow, that's some ballsy stuff right there. But that's kind of the primordial soup, I think, that a lot of us kind of came up in at that time. And I think I was really latched on to a lot of the weird stuff early on. And like, I remember the first kind of the bigger show that I put together was Richard Devine, and I had him play at 26 Mix. And then, but you fast forward right now, and like, I think the culmination of sort of that really intricate sound design shows up in your work, because like, again, somebody on a passive listen of your stuff, you're like, yeah, this is just like banging house and this is good and whatever, but again, it's the kind of ears that you listen to, man. how has sort of that level of complexity that, I mean, dude, I'll go into some other stuff here in a minute, but like, I remember the stuff you turned me on to was way like you turned me on to a bunch of stuff that was mad complex and really IDM-y, and even like even more than that, just like the quality of the sound design, man. How does that influence you today as a producer when a lot of the stuff you do is real solidly for the dance floor?
Right. Yeah, that's a great question, man. And I think you went down most of the roll call there at around that period, you know, right after I took these classes where I learned about John Cage and all that. I had also just befriended people like Sutek and these guys and just started realizing that there was a whole other cerebral aspect of techno. I mean, like Raph and Mickey and Ron and I had been doing these vehicle parties, which were great, but we were just slamming it, you know, just like fucking Purpose Maker and Swedish techno and just like, you know, BPMs up, just bang your head against the bricks kind of shit, which is fun too. It's great. I mean, I came up as a dancer first, as, you know, and a raver and everything before, you know, ever getting into production. And so the visceral part was there first and foremost, you know. But then when I met all these cats and I started realizing how many possibilities there are in terms of layers and stuff. And, you know, I got turned on, I think just around that time and from some of these dudes, like a lot of the IDM stuff, you know, I wasn't like first on board the Aphex or Autek or the Train or anything, but I kind of picked up some slack and started listening to more of that. And yeah, I just had my mind blown about how much intricacies. And then to me, that tied back in with the jazz stuff that I was raised on, you know, and about, you know, when you listen to like a crazy ass Richard Devine track, you know, and then you listen to like something like, I don't know, Bitches Brew or some early like experimental but yet successful type Ornette Coleman. I was just gonna remark on the the comp right there. That's the jam right there. Ooh. Yeah, Ornette Coleman, great example. You know, this idea of you know, these details and this kind of challenge and improvisation and these different elements that can take place. And after repeat listenings, the fact that you can discover something new every time, that is such a big part of music for me. Like the recordings that last for me are the ones that I put the needle on it or press play, you know, space bar to play the digital, whatever. It doesn't formats be damned in this discussion, but yeah, exactly. But no, please don't do that. Plug headphones in. But you know, the albums that stand the test of time for me personally are the ones where there's these intricacies just play out, and you could listen to the track and focus on one thing. And then I realized too, as a DJ, you know, back in the days when we would DJ to people, rooms, sound systems, lots of people there. These parties. I
vaguely remember people.
Memory serves, yeah. So, you know, in these moments, when it's amplified, I started realizing, hey, shit, this works this way too. Like, so as a DJ, like some of these tracks, you play them, and the first time you hear them, the bass roll and the kick, you're like, cool. And then the next time you play them, you're like, oh shit, there's this weird thing that's going, there's this bird chirp that's going on over here. And then the next time you play it, you're like, wait, were those claps always in there? Oh, they're panned over here. You know, and just so going back to like the combination of like the jazz influence, the sound nerd out thing, and then the influence that these guys are doing, pushing the limits. I mean, Josh Clayton was a huge influence, and he was one of the first ones that was telling me, you know, this is, I think Cyclone 74 may have just kicked off. This is way pre-Ableton, all that. These guys were, you know, it sounds kind of like a funny thing now, this laptop techno thing, or like software electronic production pioneering. Now everyone scoffs at it and thinks hardware is the only way to do it, but all of these guys, I won't name check everyone because some of them might be embarrassed to be hypocritical these days, but all of them at the time were like, dude, you could just do all of this right here and have it just, and it's all about the sound and put in. So I think going through that list of the Bay Area artists and the way that they kind of affected everything else, and tying in with the Mutech Festival, or I know the combination with Pole, with Scape, you know, Stefan Becker was a big connection in Berlin with this scene and everything. And that's, so Seth and Josh and all them were making regular trips to Montreal and Berlin to kind of connect with this, you know, Jan Jelinek, Farben, like he was a big part of that kind of thing too. And the idea there is that, you know, sound processing became digitized, but for the first time, not deliberately. You know, like in the 90s, you had New Jack Swing, and you had DX7s and FM synthesis, and everything was like digital. Yeah. And that stuff's great too. I love all that shit for sure. By the way, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis are about to release their first artist album.
I heard that.
I fucking can't
I'm
wait.
I'm waiting.
Yeah, I can't wait. Anyways, side note. But, you know, in this case, it was like the new technology, which was, you know, software based, was the idea was some sounds can be analog, some like recorded and not digitally treated, and they be played back just the way. And then some can be like the glitch thing. You couldn't do that shit with hardware, you know? And dude, truth be told, man, I back in the day when my friend Mickey and I we were amassing a studio in my parents' house when I was still living with my parents, all this gear and these synths and shit. And in the end of the day, we would just end up like hovering over the ASR-10 and just trying to make it sound as fucked up as possible. Yeah. To the point where any ASR-10 users out there, you get the noise rat. Dude, if you fuck around with an ASR-10 enough, it calls you a noise rat. It goes noise rat, noise rat. I've talked to a few people over the year that I think Roman Flugel knows about this. We talked about it because he's an ASR-10 head too. But so all this hardware was dope, but it was like I would just sample it and end up using it in the anyways. And so when Seth and Josh and them were kind of not pushing this idea on me, but kind of influencing it, and so I came up with the EP I did for Context for Sutek's label. Yep. It was vinyl recordings. It was just records, but it was me literally just dropping the needle by chance on a bunch of stuff. And each song title is based on the artist that it is. So there's like one Stevie Wonder one, there's one Roy Ayers one, I think there's one Pink Floyd, and so each one was just me going blip, 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 blip. So it was like chance operations meets like glitch shit meets sound. So it was a combination of analog like glitching, like the record deliberately skipping, mixed with just doing it all software based and cutting it up in there and really fucking with it. And damn, I don't know if I have a copy of that shit. You could call Seth. I was like, I want to hear that right now, but I think I have a digital copy. But anyways, I just love the idea of embedding these different possible narratives. Where it's like, so somebody who's interested in conceptual art would be like, holy shit, that's what that is. Yeah. And then somebody who just wants to have a party and have a good time and dance still can. I think
that's a really interesting take on it too, because I'll be honest, I would say that my head was kind of really wrapped around that for a long time before I bounced out of the Bay Area until 2005, 2006. I moved out and went back to Texas for a bit, and it was funny because the first thing I did was like, no more electronic. I want to be in a band. I want to play guitar. Yeah. I played with some bands and we played it out and did stuff. I'm like, I somehow needed to shake it off because it almost seemed like it got to the point where it was like this crescendo of like, it was almost like too much chin stroke music. You know what I mean? It got
it got over cerebral,
exactly. Yeah, and that was just about the time that DFA was just going and kicking into high gear, and I went out and saw. I saw their shows live, and then there was just a sequence of things that I'm like, dude, I kind of just want to go dance. Right. I kind of just want to go to this dance party. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There's always love for all of that too, but I think it's different. I mean, I did the Under the Radar parties for 5 years, and
that was right. Under the Radar, that was your jam.
Yeah, and I hit this point where I'm just like, oh man, I do not want to see another person in like black frame glasses with a bicycle messenger bag asking me about the sound system. I just don't. Like, I just kind of want
to like commenting about the sound system.
Yeah, I want to do a shot, maybe meet a friend, and leave all your keys, and then I want to go dance. I don't want to fuck with any of this anymore. And I think there's been an equilibrium that's happened because about 7 months ago or so, I started working with Marc Pistol of Consolidated on a new Zygote record, and it is four to the floor. A lot of it is just there are different things I want to do, but I want to make a dance record. Like that is like at my core what I want to do with this new project. But I want to put those other elements in it too, and I want to be able to have outlets to do different things, right? So speaking of outlets to do other things. Let's talk about cookie policy. Let's talk about KAMM.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I can't front. Like, I kind of slept on the last release.
Okay, fair enough.
I just got my first earful of the couple of tracks that are out floating around of that, and holy shit, dude, that's a incredible record. It's on, and I know you're very concentrated on like the club scene. So when people hear this stuff, it's a whole different side of you. Right. But that side of you that I know first, which is really cool. Because I side note here. So when I was doing the weekly at Julep on Geary,
oh shit,
yeah. So you were there, and you brought a Grape Dope Missing Dragons album, and
I was just listening to that yesterday. Dude, I'll spread it off that album.
That's the jam.
Dude, that song is in my top 50 of all time of any genre, probably.
Have you heard Backyard Bangers?
I think so. I'm not sure.
Brand new, a grape dope. Brand new. Like literally like less than 3 months old. Yeah. Yeah. John Herndon has and he's doing all this really crazy animated videos for it too. But I think it's only been like somebody put, oh yeah, this is his debut release. I'm like, no, it's not.
No, it's not. Yeah.
What bugged me out is I tried to hunt it down. It's not streaming.
No, it's not on YouTube or anything, man. That's crazy. Because I actually was telling somebody about it.
Discogs for anyway, that's not important how much I pay for it. It's irrelevant. I might have kids, but I don't have a wife, so I can buy what I want. This is my dining room. I'm good.
Well said.
All right. I do what I want. Anyway, but my point is that KAMM record, immediately I'm like, how much of your stuff, because I know you do this a bit, but how much of your stuff do you do vocals on?
I mean, for the Dave Ajou stuff, of course, there's a vocal in literally every track, one way or another. That's kind of some weird unspoken rule with myself. But
as kind of a front, as almost
as
like
a lead thing, not so maybe on Dave Ajou stuff, maybe 1 out of 8 has a lead vocal or like a upfront kind of written vocal, and a lot of times they're freestyles in the studio, just kind of jamming out. In this case with the KAMM stuff, and it's amazing that you brought up the Grape Dope, because basically how that came about, even before the first album, the Kick Drunk Love, which we released on Marcel Vogel's Intimate Friends one. We released that one, I guess it's been about 4 years ago. So the four of us, which is with Alain Bialo, Kenneth Scott, and Marc Smith, who also we all met in San Francisco, kind of in the next wave, I would say, after the one that we've been talking about. There's another wave of the 222 Hyde scene, the Control scene.
So one more time, can you run off the members, because this is a full band, right?
Yeah, it's a full band. There's 4 of us. Yeah, so it's myself, Alain Bialo, Kenneth Scott, and Marc Smith, who are all San Francisco, at one point, Berlin transplants. So we were all friends in San Francisco, and we had met through this kind of next wave scene, Control SF and RX Gallery, 222 Hyde, in this kind of time period. And but when we started hanging out more in Berlin, when we were all began to be expats together, I think Alain moved over there first, and kind of shortly after, then myself, and then Smith. And we were all hanging out. And at the time, of course, in Berlin, you're like, they're there to be, a club DJ, and you're focused on your gigs, and you're cranking it out, and that you're just really focused on, the DJ culture and that as a business. I mean, it's kind of like living on campus to live in Berlin, quite frankly. And so, we were like, well, let's all work on something. And we started, and then as soon as we put like a kick drum in, we all looked at each other, we're like, no. That's what we always fucking do. Let's make a pact right now that we never make dance music together. It has to be non-dance music, because that's what we do. We all immediately, it wasn't like some deep talk. It was like, oh fuck yeah, easy, ding. Yeah. And so we immediately, and one of the main cross points for us all was Tortoise, and the kind of thrill jockey, the Chicago, hefty, cranky thrill jockey, this kind of period. And dude, one of the first Tortoise show I ever went to, I saw them up there, and I was like, these moments where you see something, you come across, you're like, okay, I don't have to do that. Somebody's already doing the way I would think I would do it. Does that make sense? Like you see, like, you're like, oh shit, like, you see like you see a certain film, and you're like, well, if I made a movie, it would look just like that. Don't need to do that. This kind of thing. I don't know. I have these moments like that. And when I first saw them play, I was like, well, fuck, this is it. This is like, if I were, and if I were an instrumentalist, this is the outfit I would want, like right here, And so, so thrill jockey and all that was a huge kind of reference point for us, And as well as like, Ninja Tune and Moax and this kind of down tempo. Because dude, when I would go, even in the 90s when I was buying all the house and techno singles, I would still go to the back room or the other one, and I'd go home with just as many like Howie B records or DJ Crush or fucking Herbalizer, DJ Vadim, early stuff, Jazz Fudge, all that shit. So I'd have a Claude Young record on on Seven City, and then have DJ Vadim on Jazz Fudge, like one for one every time, pretty much. So, and if you think about the music I make for myself, you smash those together, I guess it's close.
Yeah, it is.
Part of our deal with KAMM was that's what we want to do. We wanted to like, kind of take that route that none of us followed in our solo careers per se, and transmit it together as a band. So Marc Smith is was trained in guitar. Alain used to be a trumpet player as a kid. Kenneth's a synth whiz, and
to see Alon playing horn, that I was like, I had no idea.
Yeah, not a lot of
people. No idea, and I was like, whoa, okay, crazy. I had no. I know him from control, you know, techno. I know him from techno, and I was like, whoa.
No, he's a jazz kid at heart too, man, and a hell of a trumpet player, you know.
Yeah, no kidding.
Surprised him one time on his birthday in Berlin. We bought him a trumpet, like right before we started really working on the album. He was just like, and we're like, you got to learn it again, motherfucker.
That's awesome.
So that was basically it. And then, you know, that allowed me, because we all shared production duties, especially like 4 ways on the first album. And that actually allowed me to just sit down with a pen and write while the other 3 guys were working on the track, which I hadn't done since early underground hip hop stuff when I was 16 or whatever, you know. So it was kind of nice. So with the KAMM stuff, I actually get to sit down and write verses and actually think about the chorus and write as a vocalist and work on the takes and make sure they're delivered a certain way that they definitely would never be on a solo Dave Ajou record, you know.
Right.
So that's been that was a really refreshing aspect of it, you know, collaborating in that sense, to be that part of that combination has been great. And man, this new album, it comes out this Friday on Circus Company, who's also made a shift for the more listening oriented in this day and age, which is great. They just released a Pepe Braddock like bucla modular ambient kind of thing before this, which is amazing. And dude, I just got actually we can talk more about it, but I just got, hold on one second. This just came in the mail yesterday. Just got this bad boy. Final copies of this jammy.
Woo!
Wait, let me.
Oh, that is gorgeous, man.
So this is, and then on the inside you got the pink slip in there, and then you got the back like this.
Nice.
And then you got the disco bag in here. We've got lyrics and a bunch of inside jokes stuff for other people there. And man, it just looks and sounds incredible. I got to say, with no ego or hyperbole, this is easily.
You're like, looking more hyperbole. This is kind of the shit.
It's kind of the shit.
I'm just saying. Just gonna put that out.
And you get your download card with it. And shit.
There's no one that I know from my camp that deserves to have good self-esteem about their shit more than you, man. Like, legit. Let me ask something about the KAMM band. So did you after the first record that you guys dropped, did you take it out on tour, or is it like strictly a studio thing?
That's a great question. Yeah, we intended to take it out on tour. Mark Smith had left Berlin first, and then I left a year or two after that. And before I had left, the other 3 of us had made most of this in our studio, which was actually my flat there at the time, the Cave Ajou, notoriously known. And we'd actually did it all together, and then had Smith record guitar parts, send them over, and we worked them in. And we never really had a chance to do it live. And so much of it is such a hive mind studio thing that, like, even some of us are like, feel really adamant, reticent rather about it, like how it's going to work. But I think in the future it could definitely be something live. Parts of it they start out just as full jams. The last track on this particular album, it's called "The Soft Glow of Electric Sex." It's a 14-minute full-scale jam, kind of in the spirit of Tortoise's Djed off of the Millions Now Living.
Yeah. I had Jeff Parker on the show back in 2015, and he was talking about kind of Djed and how that, how that evolved, man. So that's cool.
Well, he's
the Soft Glow of Electric Sex, man. Come on, really? I mean, does the single have the leg on it or no?
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's that. Nay, not a lot of people get it right away.
The only thing would be better is if you called it fragile. That's Italian.
Yes, these are the moments. These are why we do this.
Yeah, I mean that hands down. I mean, come on, cookie policy, dude. It's all over. It's just you're steeped in it. You're steeped.
Well, dude, I mean, I think one thing that's kind of imperative about the KAMM project is that I've never met or worked with, rather, especially colleagues that have as much of a flair for the ridiculous and the embedded Easter egg and the jokester meets I'm dead serious about shit as these guys. Scott and Marc, they're some of the funniest, smartest dudes I've ever met, and also hyper talented musically. And the combination of that was like, I remember actually my mom visited Berlin for my birthday, I think, and it was like the year we just wrapped a lot of this up and we were feeling pretty good about it and stuff. She had dinner with us, and she was just following our banter, she's like, how the fuck do you guys get anything done? Which is a damn fine question. So like, in a way, it's like, there's this hyper emotive. So the way this album's been distilled, it's essentially a breakup album because we'd all just gone through breakups.
Yep.
All had our hearts smashed. Everyone who's been through that will be able to identify with this album, which we think is pretty beautiful. And it was made 4 years ago, technically, but for this year, 2020, I mean, this is kind of like the biggest silver lining. Also, this year, I think this music resonates even more than it would have 4 years ago. When everyone was 4 years, 2016 was like,
it was ready to get out there.
November 2016.
I heard this. The first KAMM that I heard was literally on KCRW here. Somebody had dropped it on an evening show. So, well, listen, man, we're about to hit the hour here, but I wanted to ask you one last thing, and that is this. With the pandemic being what it is, with where we are right now, what's your game plan? What are you working on right now? What about solo projects? What do you have in the pipeline right now to keep the feeder open for all the people out there that want to get down with some Dave Ajou? Yeah, man. Been busy in the studio. I actually finished up a new solo album. It is in the works for a how do I say this? So the label manager for a very large label who moved on into starting a new thing. That's super cryptic, and I apologize for that until that's how this shit works. But so we're working on it right now, and to bring it up to speed, it's going to be pretty fantastic. It's called Glossolalia, which is a reference to speaking in tongues, and all of the vocals on it are written and sung and performed in a completely non-existent language. Wow.
Including some guest vocalists that played ball really nicely. So it's a straight dance floor record, but pretty wild shit. So that should be coming pretty soon as well. And you had that? Is there a release date set for Glossolalia? Not yet. That's what we're trying to get down to that point right now to figure that out. But I'm excited about it. I started it before the lockdown. I started it in February. With there's this group with a couple friends at TK Disco, Travis Kirschbaum here, with Tavish Graham. They do Warehouse Preservation Society, and then my studio partner Alex Sons at the time, and they all worked together. So the four of us started this kind of this LA party group called Disco's Triple X, and we did a night in February, the one and only so far, of course, for this year. It was the debut night. It went really well. The music was incredible, and I literally came home like the Sunday after that, which is notoriously that's the day you don't want to work. But I was so inspired that I just started cranking on this album, and then the lockdown hit, and I don't know. I guess I just went in heads down mode. I guess that was my form of making lemonade. I just what are you gonna do, man? There's really we are where we are, but I am super hyped. Okay, so two things I want to say. KAMM Cookie Policy out this Friday. Keep an eye out. Keep an ear out. Yeah, links will be dropped. Things will be forwarded. There will be conversations. Maybe a blog post or two. I anticipate a wave. Glossolalia, Dave Ajou's new solo record, coming out imminently. TBD, but it's in the can. Early 2021. Where will people find the Ajou? Where can people find you on the interwebs? On the interwebs, we get the Bandcamp site. So you got the Ajou one there. There's gonna be a lot more coming on there soon. Okay. Couple new mixes I just did. They're up on SoundCloud for As You Like It and Acid Camp and some of the other locals. I saw that As You Like It. I talked to Jeremy Bispo a couple weeks ago, and I saw the drop that you did for him. That was a dope set. Yeah, it was a fun one, man. We went out to Ojai and did it with Jenny Love and Juliet Mendoza live. It was a good one. And then we really needed that moment of lifted spirits to kind of come together with some family again. It was really good. So there's some mixes on SoundCloud like that. I have a Greasy Listening series too, which is about kind of mellower sort of stuff that I'm trying to get more on. But we'll nice. And I'll tell you what, you send me all the info. We'll drop all the links in the comment section wherever you're seeing this, whether it's Twitch or whether it's Facebook or whether it's some alien transmission coming from the Elon Musk base on Mars. That's right. We will link you up. And hey, man, Dave,
It's a pleasure to see you, man. It's been
fun, buddy. Thanks, man.
And, let's go get a socially distant, masked up beer sometime in the near future. Because like literally, you're just down the way. You're right there.
That's true, man. That's true. Hey, thanks, Steven, for having me, man. Along with the Zygote. Yeah. I want to hear this new Zygote shit too, man. I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Oh, don't worry. You will.
Yeah,
it's coming, man. All right, brother. Hey, thank you so much. Godspeed. Stay safe. Be good. And we'll see you next time. All right, Mark?
Sounds good, man. Yeah, stay safe, everybody. Peace.
Thanks. Take it easy.
All right, man.